some of the material did not get to me, Colette.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
It's about the student housing.
Yes.
So you take it away and I'll do the ad lib. I
Okay.
apologize for this, but the winds out here have knocked everything out.
Okay. Happy to do that. Good afternoon on the East Coast. And thank you to the committee members, particularly for allowing us to do this virtual meeting, a little bit off schedule from the regular board meetings. And actually, I'm looking out the window at the snow piling up. So I think it was fortunate that we scheduled this as a virtual meeting today. But this is really just to get your second look and hopefully approval of the schematic design for the student housing project on the Emmett Ivy corridor. Before Alice goes into the design review, though, I thought it might be helpful just to give a little bit of current context around student housing. You know, it is part of the strategic plan to house all of our second year students on grounds along with our first years. But we've just completed our housing assignment process for the 25-26 academic year and have seen what my experts and my professionals in housing and residence life has said, an unprecedented demand from our students for on-grounds housing, which I think is why this particular project is so important. But just to give you an idea, from the fall of 21 to the fall of 25, applications for on-grounds upper class housing have increased by 81%. In this particular year, for the upcoming academic year, the demand really outstripped our ability to have enough capacity, enough inventory to address all of those students who expressed a desire to live on grounds. So we're offering them support and help in trying to identify off-grounds accommodations, as well as we set up a wait list. Sometimes students who sign up for housing then change their plans, or they decide to go abroad or something like that. So there could be some accommodations that open up a little bit later. But we are, I think what this tells us is that on-grounds housing is in high demand. I think we provide a great value for the product that we offer to our students. It's certainly a less expensive option in many cases from the private market. We've been messaging and encouraging our second year students to look at on-grounds housing, and that message seems to be successful. And of course, when you're not without the mandate, you know, when you're looking to market your inventory to students, then you have to kind of provide them the kinds of accommodations that they want to live in. And I think that the popularity of Gaston and Ramazani houses that we just brought online in the fall kind of prove that out. You know, the apartments, the dining in the first floor level, we have a policy right now of the same area return, you know, and if you want to stay in the same place as the next year, you can request that. There was an 87% return rate for those students who were living in Gaston and Ramazani. So those were mostly second year students. So I think clearly the cost, the desirability of our accommodations, and you know, safety and security too of our properties really speak to the need for more housing on grounds, and particularly for this project. So with that, I'll pause. Any questions? Otherwise, I'll turn it over to Alice and have her walk through the design revisions that we have done since the December meeting when you saw it first.
Colette,
Yes.
I have a question. we were talking about doing 9-month leases or, not during the summer. How does that work if somebody stays? Do they have to, do they elect to stay on, right? And so what do they move their stuff and come back in or do they
Yeah,
just?
they would have to do that, David, yeah.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so a question, you mentioned
sorry.
that we didn't have enough housing to accommodate all the requests.
Yes.
Is the priority for first and second years, and then if there's more housing, it goes for others, or how does that work?
Yeah, no, the priority works for third and fourth year, rising third and fourth years get first priority. And particularly, and if you're requesting to stay in the same residence hall that you already live in. And then I'm trying to remember the second year, Doretta might have to help me here. On the priority.
Yeah, rising second year. And the first years don't assign, housing office actually assigns them housing.
That's for the incoming class.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's really the third and fourth years get the first pick, particularly if you want to stay in the same place. Then second years STEC accommodations, of course, are given priority. And then it kind of goes down a list from there. So the second years, because I think the second years kind of got short this time around because of the popularity and the demand from the third and fourth years. So we're evaluating and probably going to change that policy of, if you're in one dorm and you want to stay there next year, you can do that. We'll probably make it a little bit more random so that everybody doesn't stay in the newer facilities, and we kind of spread those equitably among the student body.
So with the new demand then for third and fourth years, does that mean that in order to accomplish what we're trying to do with second years, that we actually need to build more than we now have on the books?
Well, I think that maybe needs to be modeled and planned out, LF. I mean, we always had the objective not to reduce the spaces for the third and fourth years, even by, accommodating all the second years, which is why we're around, 2,200 new beds. But I think once we get through that second phase, we'll have to evaluate whether or not we need to build even more. And I guess, I think some of the stuff happening in the private market too will have an influence. I don't know how much. Those are pretty luxury student apartments that they're building on Ivy Road and on JPA and Fontaine. So I don't know if that will have an influence, but I think we'll have to kind of look at that in the future.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Alice?
All right. Well, thank you, Colette, and thank you, John, and good afternoon, everyone. Just showing you a reminder of the location of the Ivy corridor between Central and North grounds and the site for the student housing along Copley and Ivy roads. So the plan for student housing on the corridor continues, as I think I mentioned before, the approved master plan by extending the pedestrian promenade from Emmett Street all the way up to Copley Road. It also extends the central green to the residential district. So the yellow triangles on the plan here show the entrances to the residential buildings on the interior of the courtyards, as well as the passageway to Copley Road and the market at the corner of Ivy Road. So the buildings, I think, are appropriately scaled to consider the surrounding context. The buildings to the north, which are along the tracks, and west along Copley Road, are 6 stories, which is approximately the same height as the adjacent Virginia Guest House, while the building along Ivy Road is 5 stories, which is approximately the same height as the Karsh Institute of Democracy. The height of the building along Ivy Road, I think, is also sensitive to the scale of the adjacent residential neighborhood, as well as to the city's entrance corridor guidelines. So this is an enlarged landscape plan showing the ground floor of the buildings and the location of the lobbies, which are shown in yellow, and dining and amenity spaces, which are shown in the light orange, and their direct relationship with the exterior landscape. I think the landscape plan proposes not only a central shared lawn, but smaller, more intimate courtyards for students to gather, as well as providing additional seating for the dining venues. The project will continue the wide tree-lined sidewalks of the master plan, and there will be exterior seating area planned outside the coffee shop at the corner of Copley and Ivy Roads that I'll show in greater detail in the following renderings. So the design of the buildings have progressed since you last saw the project in December. This rendering is looking northeast at the intersection of Copley and Ivy Roads, where you can see the 6-story building along Copley and the 5-story wing along Ivy Road. The ground floor along Copley and Ivy maximizes transparency to not only provide direct access to the retail space at the corner, but also gives eyes on the street, if you will, for safety. The sidewalks will be tree-lined, as I mentioned, and we've shown our typical UVA banners on the new pedestrian streetlights. The signage reading UVA Market and Copley Coffee are just placeholders for future branding at the moment. So this is the same view at dusk, and it shows how the transparency of the corner not only identifies the student social hubs at the corner, but also how the corner serves as a beacon as one enters grounds from the west. So the architectural details and the material palette are very much in keeping with Gaston Ramazani houses, the student residential buildings that Colette mentioned that we built on Brandon Avenue. The red brick will be selected to match the adjacent hotel in the School of Data Science, and the detail of the brick banding has also been used at Student Health and Wellness and the Hardie Football Operations Center. And of course, Swiss Coffee, which is the warm white color we use across grounds, will be used for the portico columns and the building cornice. So this is now a zoomed in view of the intersection of Ivy and Copley Roads, which shows the potential for an active street life with the coffee shop and the convenience store at the corner. And then now we're looking southeast at the residential buildings from the Copley Bridge, where you can see the 6-story wings facing the tracks and Copley Road. And you can also see the location of the portals in the middle of this slide that will provide access from Copley Road down to the pedestrian promenade that, as I mentioned, runs the length of the Emmett Ivy corridor. I think they're denoted by those little glazed windows at those portal intersections. And now this is the view from the interior lawn and the shared lawn in the foreground, looking west towards that dining hall and social hub beyond the portico. And the stair access to Copley Road that I just mentioned on the previous slide is on both sides of this dining pavilion. And then this is the same view at dusk with the passageways to Copley well lit and the dining hall providing a focal point to the lawn. And then finally, one more view showing the portico of the dining hall with outdoor seating adjacent to one of the building entries, which is straight ahead in this view. You can also see the access to Copley Road just to the right of the slide. I think this is going to be a very active end of a very vibrant Emmett Ivy corridor. And Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to answer any questions, but also ask for schematic design approval for this Ivy Corridor student housing project.
Before I call for questions, Ellis, go back to the Copley Road view. I want to point out 2 issues that are still, I'll say, open. No, there.
This one?
No, you would go, hold on, go back to the road, this one. I think it's pretty obvious that there's clear pedestrian walkway on the left of the image. On the right of the image, there's no room. We looked at this. We'll work with VDOT to see if it's possible to extend that out so that there's walkway on both sides. We all know that there will be pedestrian foot traffic on both sides of this street. So that is, in my opinion, that's still an open issue. The other, as she was going through this, one area that I focus on is security. So Alice, talk about security, particularly with the convenience store and that coffee shop access to the general public.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'll invite Jaretta and Colette to add to anything that I can't answer, but I think the plan is for the convenience store and the market to be open to the public during normal business hours and then closed at 10 or 11 o'clock, depending on what the hours of the spaces will be, and that it will only be accessed by a student ID card from the inside of the courtyard. And that there's no overlap between public circulation and the student circulation.
To the committee, we paid particular attention to the possibility of general public access, not off the street, but back into the courtyard and student areas, assuming the IDs are not circulated, then I believe the security issue to the inside is addressed.
There's no access from the convenience stores to the student residences.
Alice, would you mind going back to the where we might be able to convince VDOT to extend the sidewalk? And also on the right side of this, it's going to be very difficult to convince VDOT to help here, because if you look at the line that's going up there, that's the 10-story building that's going to go up.
The private,
private development, yes.
That's right.
And there's no sidewalk on their site. So if we were to, even if we put a sidewalk here, it would end at their site. But we are studying widening this sidewalk on the bridge.
that's the only, from my opinion, that's the only real open issue, is that pedestrian walkway.
So let me
Alice?
also say that I spoke earlier, I guess, with Colette and with Alice, and Amanda was on the phone, and we talked about this very thing, and it seems that there's some attention being paid to how this sidewalk on the east side, the existing sidewalk, could be expanded. It's 6 feet now, which is very narrow and tight for traffic going in two directions. And there's some options being looked at to widen that, which I think will be really important as we move ahead to connect these dorms and other facilities to ultimately the north ground.
I know, Ella, if you look on this drawing, on this design right here, the student with the backpack on is walking, and the student with the sunglasses on is walking. They're going to run into each other. I hope they don't fall over into the traffic or fall over the to the left. I mean, yeah, it's pretty tight there.
If there's LF, we explored this in some preliminary reviews. If there is no sidewalk on the right hand of this view, that left sidewalk is going to have to be widened. Or you're going to have people walking in the street on either side. Now, Alice, you want to talk to that, the widening of that sidewalk?
Well, so the university owns Copley Road, by the way, and we would be working with VDOT in terms of the structure. We will, we're looking at, I believe, we have determined that we could have an outrigger sidewalk that could be supported on this existing structure, but we're just at the early phases of this. So
Right.
we'll come back with some more details for you.
I think the other thing too is that road across the bridge is like 3 lanes because it's 3 lanes on either side, but it's only used as a 2-lane road. So there's I would think, a possibility that you could take a little bit of it and make it sidewalk if you, carefully thought and engineered that so that the transitions on either side worked well.
We'll take a look at that, Aleph, in greater detail.
Thank you. I'll follow up on that.
Could I jump in real fast?
Sure.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. 2 things. One is about this. I think everybody's right that if there's any way to expand the sidewalk, I mean, this is such a major, essential throughway. I mean, this is a major running route for runners and walkers that are going around grounds. This is the major way that the Emmett Ivy Garage parkers go to baseball, go to basketball. So adding in the students walking along with the crowds is surely going to push people onto the street at times where you really don't want people on the street. And then my other point is I've raised this concern in the past about the Emmett Ivy University intersection and the trickle-down impact of adding all of these new beds and what that intersection, which is already jam-packed, is going to look like when 1,000 or more new people are crossing it at all hours of the day and night. And if a elevated bridge or something, I was told specifically it's not in the budget presently, but I think that's something for either this board or a future board to study along with the administration, because it's, I drive in that way every single day and it's bad now, and adding this will make it worse. Thank you.
Michael, this is John. That hadn't come up. I appreciate you raising it. And from my perspective, safety here because of vehicular traffic is critical. That's why I raised the sidewalk issue. Hadn't thought about the intersection. Thank you. We'll pursue it. Alice,
Yes, sir.
any other points? No?
Mr. Chairman?
Yep. Just to ask for a vote for approval.
Right. I would like a motion to approve the planning to move to the full board at the next appropriate meeting.
So move.
LF moves.
Mr. Chairman,
Second.
this is an approval just by the committee. It does not have to go to the full board.
Well, it's going to go to the board.
No, it doesn't have to, because Buildings and Grounds has purview over designs of buildings.
Okay, I apologize. I had a
It's
note
okay, yeah.
that from our phone call that was going to happen. Okay, so this is just a vote to approve, period.
Again, so move.
A second.
Motion and a second. Thank you. I'll call for a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? And the motion carries. Colette, do we have any other business?
That is all, Mr. Chairman.
Really
Appreciate that.
quickly.
Yes,
No, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you.
and I want to apologize to the committee. I'm in far west Texas right now where this front's hitting. That's the reason I'm in blue jeans and a vest. A lot of quail yesterday, but not much today. Anything else? All right,
Thank you very much.
the committee meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Hope the birds show up, John.
So do I.